Growing inequalities of power gave rise to new frameworks for violence in the 18th and 19th centuries. As Europeans asserted the right to set the laws of war and intervene anywhere to protect imperial subjects and interests, they assembled a sprawling regime of armed peace, dominated by a handful of world powers. As I traced these patterns, I was shocked by the frequency with which serial minor conflicts opened pathways to extreme violence. Wars that were billed as small and manageable exposed civilian populations to ferocious attacks by fighters suddenly released, it seemed, from any obligation to refrain from cruelty. Strategies that had appeared to enhance security just as often produced catastrophe. Like players in a game in which routine moves drop pieces to positions on the board where all is lost, participants in small wars were aware that utter devastation was a real possibility, but they could not prevent it. Empires and their agents, meanwhile, deftly combined pledges to check the ravages of war with authorization of spectacular violence. In writing about this history, I had to reach for new ways of studying small wars. Military analysts have tended to describe small wars as manifestations of insurgency and counterinsurgency. The bias has driven them to focus on questions about how and why global powers so often failed in the face of unconventional enemies. Typical of this tendency is the minor industry in the United States that aimed at assessing why American officials made so many wrong moves in Vietnam. But schooling sponsors of war to learn lessons from the past so they might do a better job next time is an odd, even chilling objective. It also answers the wrong questions. Our aim should not be to help humanity master the art of war, but to understand the arc of war, the logic and practices that move antagonists with exquisite precision from conflict to conflict, and from exercises in containment right up to the edge of atrocity. If I couldn't rely on military analysts as guides, I also needed to cultivate a healthy skepticism of some common approaches to law and war. Followers of the German jurist Carl Schmitt, who began to ponder war when he was an enthusiastic member of the Nazi Party, have focused on the relation of imperial violence to states of emergency or exception. The approach has opened new ways of mapping the dynamics of imperial violence, but it also misses a great deal. Although empires frequently deployed emergency measures like martial law to sanction and systematize violent repression, their baseline condition was low-level violence organized in routine sequences. This ongoing violence and its many forms gave emergencies their logic and rhythm, not the other way around. The phenomenon also naturalized extreme violence. The slaughter and enslavement of civilians, starvation of whole towns, and campaigns of dispossession. These and other brutal projects were integral parts of the global imperial order. The age of empires is in many ways still with us. In the 20th century, international treaties and institutions sought to ban war. And it is tempting either to portray the proliferation of small wars as a sign of international law's failures, or to regard parts of the world as descending into the unruly warfare of the pre-modern past. Instead, this book suggests many continuities in the mechanisms, justifications, and rhythms of war across global and international orders. When 20th century empire states packaged their violence, for example, as an inside job, a work of policing, not war, they were drawing on an imperial repertoire.